Hey everyone, Chuck Silver here to talk about NBA playoff best ball and Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports. It's also the fastest growing fantasy app in the industry. Occupy Fantasy has recently partnered up with Underdog. Sign up using the promo code Occupy2 for a 100% deposit match up to $100. You can also click the link in the description below. In addition to best ball, Underdog also offers Fantasy Pick'em where you can select 2 to 5 players for higher or lower on their stat totals and win up to 20 times your entry. Or if you just want to draft but you don't want to wait for the playoffs to end, they also offer daily fantasy contests where you can live draft with other people for tonight's games. But we're here today to talk about NBA playoff best ball. And just in case you've never played best ball, it's very similar to regular fantasy leagues in that you take turns selecting players and you get points for their stat production when they play games. The difference here is that once the draft is done, that's it. You don't set a starting lineup. There's no trades, there's no free agency. Your team is the team that you have for the rest of the playoffs if you progress through the playoffs. Your starting lineup is your best possible 5 players that fill out the required positions. So the tournament is called The Dance. It's a $10 entry. It has a $500,000 prize pool with $100,000 to first place. We're going to draft in pools of 6. And like I said, we're taking 10 players total in this one. You can enter it 150 times. And it closes the morning that the playoffs start. So we're not going to have the final seedings until the day before when the final play-in game is complete, but we can look at some stats and some projections and see what the numbers think for who's going to make the playoffs. So the schedule of this tournament is the first round with your group of 6 is the first round of the playoffs, not including the play-in, and then every round is just coincides with the rounds in the playoffs, with the best ball championship being the NBA finals. And so the whole goal of this tournament is to fill out a full 5-man roster for that NBA finals round. You need 1 guard, 1 wing, 1 big, and then 2 flex, which is just 2 of any of the other 3 positions. If you play DFS, you should be familiar with the scoring structure. The things to note are blocks and steals are worth 3, and turnovers are -1. So looking at the advanced structure, in our group of 6 in the round 1, the top 1 advances. So it's pretty tough to get out of the first round, but in round 2, we have groups of 12 where the top 2 advance to round 3. Same thing to round 4, but now there's 260 people total left in the tournament, and they're going to be put into one big group, and it's just one big fantasy contest for the finals. A couple of things to note about the payout structure is that if you advance to the second round and you get eliminated, that's it. Your min cash is only $10. So you're only getting your buy-in back, and we're only going to advance to the second round on average 1 in 6 times. So we really want to make sure that we construct our rosters in a way that give us a chance to compete for that first place of 100,000. Because even if we get to the finals, and we don't have eligible players to field a team, say the best players on our team were eliminated in the conference finals, the min cash is only $120, and while $120 is great, first place is 100,000, and it's really difficult to get through to the finals. And so if you get a team there, you really want to make sure that it's set up to take the whole thing down. And the way that you do that is just follow the proper roster construction in that. So my typical roster construction, I'll have 4 players from one team as my main stack. That's the team I expect to go to the finals. It's typically going to be the stack of your first pick, but not always. And then my goal is to get 2 players each from 3 different teams in the opposite conference. So let's say I start with a Milwaukee stack. Maybe my Western Conference 2 offs can be something like Sacramento, the Clippers, and maybe a light Denver stack with some of the cheaper guys down there. And so the idea is just like I said, you want to have 5 players in the finals. And to do that, we really need to just set up our rosters correctly. Now, there are some teams more likely to make the finals than the rest, Milwaukee and Boston. Boston is, I guess, the number 1 team to make the finals right now, according to 538. One of the resources we'll use. So we got the first pick here, which is great. We're going to go ahead and take Giannis. According to Vegas, The Bucks are the team most likely to make the finals in the Eastern Conference. The Celtics are next, and then so the Celtics and Bucks are pretty close. I think it's pretty likely one of these teams comes out of the East. The Sixers are a little bit behind, and then Cleveland is also in the conversation, but the rest of the Eastern Conference teams really aren't competing for a championship. It's really difficult for an underdog to win in a 7 game series. It can happen. It happens every year almost, but the top teams are just so dominant this year that I would think it's pretty unlikely that anyone else makes the finals besides these two teams. And so these are the two Eastern Conference teams that I'm liking to target the most in the first round. It's it's difficult when you're getting the guys later in the draft from these teams, but if they make the finals and you have them on your team and you make it to that final round, then it doesn't matter. You're getting points from them and you're happy with it. So one thing to notice with the East is that the Suns are number one to make the finals, and then Denver, they're pretty close. And then also very close are the Warriors and Memphis. And then if Clippers, Lakers, and Kings can make a run, I wouldn't be super surprised. Maybe with the Kings, and then the Clippers would need Paul George to come back healthy. But the point is that the Eastern Conference is kind of tight in that the teams to make the finals are probably between these three, more specifically these two. Where in the Western Conference, it's way more wide open. I wouldn't be surprised if any of these teams made the finals. And so while these two are favorites, they're not as big of favorites as the Eastern Conference guys. So it's just something to keep in mind. So we got Giannis with the first pick. We would love to take Drew Holiday here and complete our Milwaukee stack, taking Brook Lopez or Chris Middleton. So we're definitely taking Brook Lopez here because we need the big is the hardest position to fill out in this format, and so we definitely want to have the big from our main stack locked up. The consideration I'm making right now is most of the time when Drew Holiday's gone, we want to take Chris Middleton. It's our Milwaukee stack, but I'm considering taking Steph just because we're gonna have a pretty clean path. Assuming that Clay doesn't go a little bit early, we're gonna have a pretty clean path to getting a Milwaukee Golden State stack. And it's a very specific finals outcome. That's the only problem with doing this. Um, like we need Milwaukee and Golden State to meet in the finals, and for this team to get through, for this to make any sense. But I'm gonna go ahead and do it, and hope that I can get that clean Golden State stack. Because in the event that Milwaukee does play Golden State in the finals, if I'm able to get Klay Thompson and Draymond and Jordan Poole, probably gonna take these two next. I'm going to be able to build a very strong finals team. And so a lot of people by default are going to just have the Bucks as their main stack here. And so when they make it to the finals, like we don't have to really worry about getting unique. I think you just take the best players that you can, make the best decisions possible. Don't take a lesser player because you think this is slightly less likely to happen, but everyone else is doing this, whatever. Try new things though. This is a relatively new format. We don't have that much data on what's necessarily correct or what works. And so try different things. And so I talked about making our main stack. It's usually going to be the first player that we pick. I could have taken Chris Middleton here, but I would have really loved for it to be Drew Holiday so that I can have one player from each position. And so now I think I'm just going to pivot and try to build a full Warrior stack as my main team. And then my Giannis stack is actually my secondary stack from the East. And so this is a pretty big risk. It's pretty risky because the Warriors are not one of the team's favorites to make the finals. But if this ends up happening, then it's just I'm going to be in a great position to take down the tournament. Could take Bobby Portis here, or I could go for a Clipper stack. Or wait, no, we have Warriors as our main stack, so we want an Eastern Conference team. Could take Marcus Smart, Tyrese Maxey, probably Marcus Smart. So the thing with Marcus Smart is he's going so early compared to the other Boston guards. They're going at 40 and 45. And so I can still get a little mini Boston stack later and take one of these guys. And now Marcus Smart is probably going to play more minutes in the finals, but I don't think we're losing too much with the savings that we're getting with their pick position. And the reason I didn't take Bobby Portis is because now that I'm going to a Golden State as my main stack, I'm going to have four Golden State players. And if it is Golden State and Milwaukee in the finals, I think it's a little bit too much to have seven players there. Bobby Portis isn't going to end up making. He's not going to end up being one of the players on that starting lineup, right? He's not going to be one of the top five fantasy producers. He's not going to be the big. He's not going to be the flex. I mean, it's possible, but I just think it's unlikely compared to the other players, given the playing time that he's likely going to get. So I'd rather just focus on getting two other clean Eastern Conference stacks. And it looks like I'm going to go for Philadelphia here. And then the last Eastern Conference team, a team that I love targeting in this draft right now is Brooklyn because they're basically free at the end of drafts. We have to take Mikal Bridges maybe in the 8th round if you want to make sure you get him. Maybe probably in the 7th round if you want to make sure you get Mikal Bridges. But something interesting about them is that the 1 through 6 seeds are unlikely to change. There's only 3 or 4 games left in the season for everybody. So Cleveland is basically locked into playing New York in the first round. And New York is without Julius Randle right now. He's out for 2 weeks. They'll reevaluate him before the playoffs start. But I would say Cleveland is going to be a heavy favorite in this matchup. And if we have a good idea that Cleveland's going to make it to the second round, then Cleveland is very strong. And I got confused. I was talking about Brooklyn. Brooklyn is probably not going to make it to the second round, but the advantage that we get from drafting Brooklyn guys is that maybe they push the Sixers to 6 games and we get 6 games out of Brooklyn. And they're just really good fantasy producers to help us get out of that first round. And in the event that they do something crazy and still make the finals, we can still have a team that has a chance with them on it. Sorry about that. But the Knicks are pretty interesting too. Even if Julius Randle's out, Jalen Brunson is going to play in the first round, and he's a great fantasy producer. He's going to be a great. He's not going super early, and he's not going super late, kind of the middle of the draft. He's a pretty decent pick, even if from a guy who is unlikely to make the finals. And then looking at the play-in guys, so this is 538. Google 538, and this would be the first result that pops up. But Boston has the highest chance of making the finals, and then the Bucks and Sixers are both pretty much the same. From the West, the Grizzlies and Nuggets are up top. Grizzlies actually have a higher chance than Nuggets according to 538's model. And then these guys down here, this is pretty interesting. So Warriors only have an 11% chance of making the finals, and I'm putting my whole draft on the Warriors making the finals. But the Bucks only had a 24%, and so taking Steph over Chris Middleton, I think it's fine because I don't think a lot of people are going to do that. So Lakers and Cavs, both 7%. I mean, it's not that often, but it's possible to happen. And then with the Suns, this is so interesting to me that 538 does not think much of the Suns. 9% chance to make the finals, where Vegas has the Suns as a favorite to make the finals. So just a couple things you can reference, just something to keep in mind. So pretty lucky that Jordan Poole made it back to us. We're going to go ahead and take Jordan Poole. And then I think my dream came true with I think that at this point, with the players available, Brooklyn is the best Eastern Conference stack that we can use to finish out this draft. So we're going to go ahead and take McHale, and we're going to take Nick Claxton. A lot of the time in these drafts, you're going to be pretty strong at guard. If you're lucky enough to get Giannis or Tatum, then you're going to be strong at wing. And the big position is going to be slightly weaker. There's a pretty big drop off from Embiid and Jokic, and Anthony Davis is here too. But Sabonis. I guess Sabonis is there as well, but it just there's not that many bigs. There's not enough bigs for everyone to have an elite big, right? And Nicholas Claxton, if what if they push the Sixers to 6 games and we get 6 games out of Nicholas Claxton and he gets the minutes that he should be getting in this series against Joel Embiid, then that's a pretty great last pick if he helps us get out of the first round. There are situations where I don't think it's terrible to draft, say, if you're weak at guard for some reason, you could draft a player from the same conference, Russell Westbrook, even though Golden State can't play the Clippers in the finals. If you think that you need help getting out of the first round, then I think it's okay to take a player from the same conference in the last rounds. We want to try to avoid it, but you know, the chances of Nick Claxton playing Golden State in the finals are probably the same as Russell Westbrook, which is just 0. Let's see, actually. The Nets have a 1% chance of making the finals, so pretty much the same. So pretty happy to get Nicholas Claxton with our last pick. This is not a bad draft. I'm pretty happy with this. Kind of exactly what I'm trying to do right now, and just do something a little bit different. In that we started our main stack with our third pick, and then our first and second pick were just secondary stack. So it's not a bad draft. Get creative, do fun stuff. I think a big thing is just get a lot of combos of teams that can make the finals, and so I definitely don't have the specific combo of main stack with secondary stacks yet. So I would say just mix it up and get in there, have fun, sweat the NBA playoffs. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and sign up on Underdog Fantasy using the promo code Occupy2. That'll get you a 100% deposit bonus up to $100. There's also the link in the description below. Let me know in the comments what else you guys would like to see related to this, and good luck out there. Thank you.